think a lot of couples grow apart because they haven't spent enough time doing what they need to do intentionally to grow together.
Okay.
But before we get into all of that, why do you think a lot of couples tend to grow apart?
I think a lot of people are just casual about their relationship. So it's easy when you're casual about a thing. I think it's easy to get lost in the day-to-day routine of like going to work, taking care of the kids and things like that. So I think it's easy to get lost in doing things and taking care of things and responsibilities outside of the relationship. And sometimes you can forget that the relationship itself should be a priority.
That's facts.
Yeah.
I think where a lot of people tend to go wrong is, sometimes people get together and it's just about how they feel about that person physically or whatever it is. It's the shallowest of things that attract you to a person initially, a lot of the times, which is not to diminish that, like it's still a part of the process, right? But when you're getting deeper in a relationship, especially like in marriage, or even where marriage is the outcome, I think a lot of people go wrong not realizing how much having shared values matter. And I think that when you are in a relationship and you don't take time to really put on the forefront what core values you have and the ones that you share with the person that you're with, it can create a whole lot of problems. But on the other end of that, it can also be the solution to all of the problems that you might face when you know what's important to you and you know what's important to the person that you're with, and how to be able to work together as a team to keep each other from growing in different directions.
Yeah.
And I don't know if a lot of people take the time, to really pay attention to those things, in the inception of a relationship.
Yeah, I think even in that, I think a conversation should definitely be had about values, but I think paying attention to how somebody functions can tell you what their values are.
That's facts.
What do they spend their time doing? What are they talking about most of the time? What pulls their attention a lot of the times? And you can learn people by actually being interested enough to watch them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Complete.
So I feel like I knew what you valued just by watching you function. And I feel like it was the same thing for me.
Yeah.
For me, for you.
That's exactly how it was. Because we didn't even, early in our relationship, the thought of having shared values and all of that stuff, it wasn't as clear back then as it is now.
Absolutely.
And it was there was this understanding of it, but not at the level that I think we understand it today. And so, when we met, I was really already in a bad place. I was already in not the best space when we met. And so when I started to get to know you and all of these different things, there were parts of you that already made me want to grow because I wanted that for myself. And so being with you and just being around you, it made me realize how much of a value that was for me. And I saw that you contributed to something that I was already working on.
Right.
And being around you made me want to grow and to become more and to become better. And again, just being with you allowed me to lean into that. And I can't even say that was a shared value that we had. But what I do know for sure, especially just because of what my past was at the time, I felt like I was trying to get to your level at that time.
Yeah.
Because, you was fresh, into the military. You hadn't really been exposed to a whole lot. Me, I had been exposed to a whole lot, fallen off, come back, fell off again. And now I was just trying to get my life together. You know what I mean?
And I think it's very important that we contextualize the fact that you were 18 when we met.
Of course. So,
you weren't a grown-ass man yet. You was
Not
18 years old trying to figure out your way in the world.
Right.
So, yeah.
Basically a kid.
You were a child.
Making all the mistakes and different things like that.
Yeah.
But I do think that, our 18-year-old experience was a lot different from many. 18, 19, really just our younger years in general.
Absolutely.
But grew through that stuff real fast. Grew through a lot of those common traps that a lot of people fall into real fast. And we didn't we didn't take a whole lot of time to get past a lot of our mistakes and wrong thinking and different things like that. So I think that also had a huge role in everything that we had going on. But in that, I knew that I had to become a better person just in general because I didn't like who I was at the time. And so being around you and knowing that you were somebody that made me want to strive for better and to be better, I think that played a huge role in seeing how you fit in my life long term.
Right.
And I think that was one of like the first big identifiers for me that made me realize, I'm like, hey, you know, I want this woman to be a part of my life for so many more reasons beyond just the fact that you're beautiful. And that we had fun and different things like that. Like, you challenged me in the ways that I needed.
Right.
And you challenged me based off of a value that I was developing in myself and trying to develop. And it kept me from having resistance in doing that because I knew it was something I was working on. And so I really think that helped us a lot in that regard.
I think what's so dope about us is the fact that we were so different. And the one thing we did have in common is the fact that we were just really goofy and silly together. But I think, like, how you talk about how I made you want to grow because I had like certain shit together and things like that. Because I grew up in a very strict household. It was very much so like disciplined before I even joined the military. I was very disciplined before that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it came pretty easy for me. But the side that you brought out of me was the fun side of me, like the being silly, the being comfortable with being authentically goofy. You know, when I feel like being, you know, silly, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and not feel like I have to be so uptight and so like structured, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate that because that was something that I needed. I needed to loosen up, you know? So you made me grow in that particular area, like just being true to who I actually am and not having to be so uptight.
Right.
Yeah.
and it's dope that you point that out because a lot of the times, you know, we hear words like growth and personal development and all of that stuff. And we always figure that it has to be something like super serious.
Right.
And a lot of the time growth can look very different. Like growth can be being more silly and just allowing yourself to be more goofy.
To live.
Or just, and all of that stuff. Especially when you've been really structured for a certain period of time of your life.
Absolutely.
Or it could be when you're a person who's been on the grind and working hard or whatever the case, and you need to learn how to like loosen up and just chill and relax and really be present in the moment. So growth can really look very different for all people. And I think what's even more dope in what you said is the fact that the area that I needed to grow in was something that you were able to give to me. And the areas that you wanted to grow in was something that I was able to give to you.
Right.
But in our being together, we learned how to make those things mesh to where we were able to create a unique bond. Because I was already naturally silly. And you was too.
Yeah.
But you got to a point where you were comfortable letting that out. And I was trying to get more discipline and structure and different things like that. And we didn't conflict in that way because you already had that. And so we were learning how to coexist inside of the values that we already had while bringing in the values that we were also trying to develop in each other. And that is how I think it really became so crazy because it started with something that simple. But as we got older and as our relationship matured, more values and more things that became important to us, we learned how to blend those things together in a way to where we never had conflict that drove us apart and that created that divide in our relationship.
Right.
We learned how to be able to share in each other's values and interests and different things in a moment to keep us connected. And I think that's been like, I don't know how we did that so subconsciously growing up.
Yeah.
But it's definitely been one of the like pillars of our relationships of just the way that we've operated.
Yeah.
And that's super dope.
It is. I know something we was talking about, I think it was yesterday on our walk or in the car or something. We were talking about how it's funny to look at our relationship in hindsight Because I'm like, how did our 18-year-old selves know how to do certain things in relationships when we didn't have any examples at all? We didn't grow up in a household like what we've built together. Like, how did we do that? And I wish we could go back and ask ourselves,
Yeah.
like, how did we learn to function like that without any guidance and without ever seeing it and not really knowing what to do? But just being totally okay with just figuring it out together and loving each other through it and knowing that it would be challenging, but it was a challenge we was willing to go through together. Like, how did we process that at such a young age?
I think what really worked in our benefit is just the fact that we were so young.
Mm-hmm.
We were so young, and we had very minimal influences and impressions on us. So I think that gave us the space to really create what we wanted without any, this is what you should do. This is how you grow in your marriage. This is the red flag of a woman or a man or whatever. We didn't have none of that. So the only thing we were able to lean into was just our genuine interest in each other. And we were able to just try stuff, get rid of what we didn't like, keep what we did like, and just keep going back and forth, figuring out what worked for us and just being okay with that process.
Oh, and in that, I think something that's, in addition to what you said, is we didn't have any outside influences outside of the people we actually knew in real life.
That's real.
We could literally pick and choose whose advice or who we should actually talk to based off of how they actually lived. The results they actually produced for their life, for their marriage and things like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now, like, in the world we have today, is so much advice, there's so much exposure to so many things. You can't fact check mugs. You can't check their life. You can't check their life and see, like, well, are they really living that? Do they actually have a happy marriage? Like, you know what I'm saying? But like, when we were growing up in our relationship, it's like, nah, your relationships looks like that, so we not finna listen to you. Like, we got it. We'll figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like I heard what you said.
Yeah.
But bro, you ain't got nothing I want. So
Right.
you can continue to speak.
Right.
But I done checked out. As soon as you brought this topic up, like,
Yeah.
you are not qualified.
Yeah. So that's like what you said is so true. Like, it's a lot of just information out there now, and people are exposed to so much more at a rapid pace, and they just consume it all instead. And you can't really, like I said, you can't really fact check people when it comes to like their lives because it's social media. But
I think that inside of that, people tend to downplay how important it is to really be interested. And so when you are genuinely and deeply interested in a person, it allows you to pay attention to them in a way that nobody else does.
Right.
Especially when you're spending real quality time with them.
Yes.
Like for me and you, right? I honestly wanted to know you in a way that nobody else could.
Right.
Which meant that I had to pay attention to you in a way and at a degree that nobody else could or would. And that took a lot of effort because I had to learn how to be able to see through your words and through some of your emotions and feelings and things like that to be able to give you what you needed. I had to be able to learn how to be able to future cast, so to say, things that you might want or things that might come up or whatever, and learn how to be able to serve you and take care of you and to be able to show up for you in those ways, knowing that this might be coming up or this is important to you, and doing that stuff out of genuine care for you and being interested in you. And then when I would execute those things, those would be my investments, right? Those would be my investments into the relationship, into our connectedness. And then as I got interested, as I invested in you, and I got a return back from that, right? From me being able to see how my actions towards you, how the things that I did for you, learning you because of me being interested, I got to see how that stuff would play out, and that deepened our connection.
Yes.
And that allowed me to be able to see what you value, to be able to learn things about you in a way that sometimes even you didn't know.
Yes.
And we did that same thing back and forth, and that just brought us so closer because you can't fake that stuff. When I pay attention to you, I really pay attention to you.
Yeah.
And you can't fake that. And so the values that we had in our relationship and in our marriage, They develop based off of our interest in one another and growing through life together. We created those values based off of our relationship and how we grew together and our connectedness. And that's something, man, you got to live through that. Like it's hard to put it in words, but you got to live through that and do that with the right person who you actually have that level of interest in and commitment to.
I love that, man. That's so good. That's so good. I saw a post one time where it was talking about when you find somebody who learns your love language and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's cute, but when you find someone who loves you in ways you didn't even know you needed to be loved.
Yeah.
In ways that like you can't even find the words. Like, okay, yeah, gifts, acts of service. Like you can't even find the words to love this person in this way until you're actually in the relationship with them. You've grown with them. You've overcome things together. Like that's a different kind of like love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those things where you literally can't put words on it.
You can't.
It's really like I can't even. I'm gonna try to explain it, but I can't even put words to try to explain what I'm trying to explain. You know what I'm saying? Because it runs so deep for us. And shoot, we 13 years in the game now, and it's like, and it keeps getting deeper for us. How we love each other, how we serve each other. It's dope.
And it's because I think there's so many nuanced details that come with having a genuine, real, and deep and meaningful relationship, especially in marriage. Because, like for example, you spoke on like the love languages, right? Personal opinion. And granted, I ain't even read that book in forever.
I'm pretty sure there's numerous books about it at this point.
Right. But what I'm gonna say to that is, I don't believe that anybody has one particular love language. Like I can't imagine a world where the only way a person is able to receive love is through one particular language. That just don't make sense to me. And realizing that the way that you want to be able to receive love or shown love or whatever the case may be is based off of the way that you're connected to a person. And it can be situational. Like if quality time, for example, is your love language, let's say that, right? Because it actually is based off of the book. And we're spending that time together. Or let's say if I'm across the country or I'm traveling or I got some other stuff going on where we're not able to be together, then I may not be able to express that to you in that moment, but I'm able to do other things to be able to show you that I love you. And it may not be through that means of the quality time. Granted, there's call and text and different things like that, but there's other ways that I can be able to show you that that I care about you and that I love you. And I think that when you box it into it having to be one way, it takes off of the creativity and the effort required to really go deep in a marriage and in a relationship. Because if the only way you can receive love is through gifts, like boss, how many gifts I'm gonna give you? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like how many gifts am I actually gonna be able to give you? And it's like, oh, okay, you don't feel love unless I'm giving you something. You know what I mean? Or you only feel love when I'm touching you. Like that's a real shallow version of love to me. And to think that you think you got something meaningful when you have to box it in like that. And I think on a real human level, I think everybody likes all of them. It just depends on the timing, what's going on, the level of connectedness, the way that you do a certain thing or whatever. Cause like, I'm not really into gifts, but my baby girl, the way she gives gifts, it makes me like it touches me. Because it's always something that like she created or she wrote out or whatever. And it's like, I like experiences and stuff like that, but like the way that she just expresses herself to me in those moments, I can't put it in words, like how deeply that moves me. And that's not a love language that I would have said that I had, but that's something that she brings out of me. She's able to bring out an appreciation for something that I didn't even know was there.
Right.
But for whatever reason, like maybe she knows it, maybe she don't know it.
Yeah.
But we have that type of connection where something like that coming from her matters to me. Mm-hmm. And it touches me differently.
Right.
When you're connected to somebody on a deeper level, they can do certain things for you that in any other scenario or circumstance, it may not touch you the way that it does in that moment with the person that you're with. Mm-hmm. And you have to leave space open for opportunities and moments like that, because they create these magical moments that you really can't quantify or put in words. Mm-hmm. And that makes the relationship so special.
Yeah.
And you get to take it out of this box saying like, oh, I'm this way, so love me this way. Mm. Because sometimes it's an experiment. Right. And you get to learn that you love in ways that you didn't know before.
Yes.
That you get joy and satisfaction out of things that weren't there before you were with the right person.
Right.
Because the right person can pull out so much out of you that you didn't even know was there.
Absolutely, baby. Absolutely. I love you.
I love you.
I never get tired of hearing you speak. I love the way you speak.
I appreciate you. I love the way you speak too.
Yeah.
And I just love your words and the sound of your voice in general.
Thank you.
But yeah, I don't know. I want people to be able to open their minds up and realize that there's so much more to this than what they get fed through social media would have them to believe. Mm-hmm. Even though they receiving this message via social media. You know what I'm saying? Right. But it's like, we always tell people, it's like, hey, you know what? These are the ways that we think about certain things. And we're not telling people that they have to do it the way that we do it. It's like, think about it for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, create the space in your own mind for you to think about it in a way that serves you. Mm-hmm. This is just our experience.
Right.
And hopefully it'll be able to serve you in some particular type of way. Mm-hmm. But going back to the initial point of all of this, though, is just realizing that your values in your marriage and in your relationship, like, it matters.
Yeah.
It matters how you connect and how you're able to bring that closeness in your relationship. And it also determines how you're able to grow through that marriage. Yeah. Because a lot of the times the problems that people face is strictly based off of the fact that you got people that value very different things, and it causes them to grow in different directions because they never took the time to get on the same page. Mm-hmm. Because what's important to that person and what's important to you might be polar opposite. Mm-hmm. And not realizing too that whatever you value dictates your actions.
Yes.
Your values in your marriage will dictate your actions and how you prioritize time and what you deem to be important. And if you guys have not gotten to a point where you can talk about it and get each other on the same page, because here's the dope thing. You could have a difference in values and it could still work out.
Absolutely, yeah.
As long as you know how to communicate it well and make your difference in values still be able to mesh together to where you're still able to go after a shared goal and have a shared focus, even if you're taking different routes to get there with each other's support. But you got to have that communication. Yeah. And you got to be able to find a way to put both of you guys, like both of the two people in a relationship, together in a way to where even in your different pursuits, you're not disconnected. It's like, hey, this is how you're included in my pursuit in whatever this is. This is how you're included in your spouse's pursuit of something else. And how both of you are going about that thing gets you to where you ultimately want to be together. And all it takes is just that shared understanding. Yeah. And people have to give themselves space to be able to create that, but you got to be interested.
Yeah. I agree. And each person needs to know for themselves what they actually value too, so they can be able to communicate that to the other person. Yeah.
How do you think we've done that recently in our marriage? I got an idea.
What? How we've communicated our values?
No, not necessarily that. how have we been able to continue to grow together in our marriage, even when our values at a particular time were different? And when I say values, I mean our personal values.
Yeah. What's important to us in that moment?
To make it more practical for people.
Yeah, I mean, we talk all the time. Like, we make sure each other knows what's important in this time. Like, okay, for me, I just did my competition not that long ago. So the last 3 months or so have been Adoria is in prep. Adoria is in prep. Like, this is important. So a lot of my time, I'm in the gym. I'm making sure I'm on my meals. I'm doing my cardio. All of this stuff is happening. Like, this is my focus right now because I'm trying to get to the stage. You have been included in that process. We talk about it all the time. And we even sit down and have family meetings so baby can know what's going on with me too. Because I wasn't sure about like how much time it was going to take. I wasn't sure about how my emotions would be. I wasn't sure about how my energy would be. So I would make sure I would let both of y'all know how I was feeling and what was going on with me on a daily basis, because how I feel and what's going on with me impacts y'all heavily. So just making sure I was talking to the both of y'all, and especially you, letting you know what was going on with me. And plus you also knew how important this was for me, because this has been a dream of mine, you know, so you knew it was like top priority. Like, Adoria really wants to do this thing. So you made it important for you too. So anytime I needed you to like take over certain things for me, you came through for me because you knew how important this was for me.
That's facts.
Yeah.
So to add to what you said, because at that time while you were in prep, your prep and you becoming who you needed to become at that time was top priority for you. Yeah. Which was great. At that time for me, mine was, you know, my brotherhood, and it was the other, you know, business ideas and things like that we're working on, and content and all of those things, right? Some of that stuff was my priority. But what's interesting about that is that's what you see on the surface. That's what people would see on the surface. Yeah. But what they don't know behind that is we were focusing on, for real, our discipline, our consistency, working on doing things that brought us our own sense of joy and fulfillment, while also allowing us to be able to grow to where we were able to develop how we thought about ourselves. We were doing a lot of personal growth and development. And we were doing all of these things because we are aware of the type of platform we want to have 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, what we want our lives to look like, and who we need to become both on the inside and the outside. And the things that we're doing individually contribute to who we ultimately want to become when we get to that point 3, 5 years down the road. Even if we're doing different activities, the whole point behind doing all of those different activities is for us to go on our own journeys to end up at the same destination together, even though we're doing it within the realm of our own individual interests while keeping each other included. And that's what people don't see. It's because, like, yeah, I get to show up for you while you're doing your training and doing all of these things to help you become the woman who you want to become. Somebody who you can be proud of. Right. While when I'm doing my things or whatever, you're helping me out doing the same things. So that way I can become somebody who I'm proud of. I can work on my own discipline, my own mental development and different things like that. Yes. So that way, as we're working toward our shared vision together, we're doing the work personally to become those people who we want to become for ourselves together. Yes. And so 2 different individual routes ultimately bringing us back to the one big vision, the one big core values for what we've envisioned for ourselves 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Yeah. And so the whole thing about that is keeping each other included in our individual journeys. Right. And that's what people don't see. It's not just the act. It's not, oh, she just competing. It's not just, oh, he just creating content. There's stuff under that that's helping us to develop the character that we need for who we want to become and what we want to be doing in the future. Yeah. And we're both in agreement on that. Yeah. Even if we're taking our own individual routes to get there. Yeah. And that's what people don't see. Yeah. And those are the conversations behind the activities. It's not just what we're doing. It's who we're working on becoming, and the activities that we're doing to help us become those people.
Yes. Yes.
And it's like I need my wife to be that disciplined, focused. When she look in the mirror, she see herself as being the baddest thing walking, you know, like that confidence, knowing that her opinions and her values and all of the things that she worked towards matter. Like, I need her to be able to see herself like that when we get to whatever that destination is. I need to be able to see myself as this focused, driven, determined individual who could do whatever he puts his mind to.
Yes.
This creative individual is this impactful man and all of this stuff. And I got to do things for me that allow me to be able to create that self-image in myself, because that's who I need to be when we get there. And so the individual activities that we're doing, we're both in agreement on the work that we're doing and who we're ultimately looking to become. So when we get to XYZ point, we show up as the person we already planned on working to become. So it's not the bodybuilding.
Right.
It's not the creating content.
Right.
It's the character we're developing to become the right people for where we're going.
Yes.
And we're in agreement on who we want to become. The activities are just the activities.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the destination is what's most important, and us getting there together.
Yes.
And again, that's the deeper side of it that people don't understand and don't see. But we have that because of our shared vision, goals, and values.
Yes. That was so good. That's so good.
And what's interesting, it's like that's what it's always been. Like, we can talk about that contextually for right now, based off of what's happened recently in our lives.
Yeah.
When we were younger, we did the same thing, even when the goals were smaller.
Still don't know how we did that.
No clue.
No clue.
But that's what happened, though. When I had the goal to, I wanted to be sergeant major of the Army. You know what I mean?
Yes, you did.
I really did. Like, I wanted to be like post commander somewhere. Like, you know, post sergeant major. When you was talking about you want to be an officer in the Army or whatever, like, when we had these grandiose ideas of different things that we wanted to do, like, even though it was a smaller scale or in a different arena, it always started with, who is it that we ultimately want to become from the inside out? What activities can we start doing that will allow us to become the right person to get there?
Right.
Am I in agreement with who you need to become? All right. Are you in agreement with who I need to become? This is where we say we want to go, right? Bet. It doesn't matter what we do to get there, as long as we're in agreement on the work that needs to be done and who we're trying to become, because that allows us to keep each other inside of our own processes. And then we can go there together.
Yeah.
And we've done that on every scale.
Yeah.
Even though at the time it was unconscious. And it's hard to, I ain't gonna say it's hard to put in words. I feel like I just did.
No, you killed it.
And I
you
hope,
killed it. Oh my God. Because I couldn't even, I'm like, dang, like, we really did this shit. I mean, you know.
Because, you know, it's so easy to get blinded by the materials or the things and all of that other stuff or whatever that covers it up. But the journey is the becoming. Like, the real thing behind it all is who you're becoming in the process.
Right.
Because, I mean, we're married. I have to like who my wife is becoming.
Right.
Regardless of what you do.
Right.
I have to like and love the woman that my wife is becoming. The things that you do will impact who you become.
Right. Absolutely.
Period. You have to like the man that I'm becoming. Whatever I'm doing is going to impact who I become.
Right.
So we need to be clear on, what type of woman are you trying to become?
Right.
I know who you are right now, but who do you desire to be? Bet, you know what? I like that woman. I'm already in love with that woman. I look forward to seeing you become that woman. I'm in agreement with your process. I'm in agreement with you doing whatever you have to do in order to become that version of you. It may not be easy. You might stumble, you might fall, you might bump your head, you might do all of that stuff or whatever, but I'm in agreement with the process. Even though it might be a process that I don't want to go under myself, but I will be included in it along the way with you because I know where you're going. And I can support you through that and vice versa.
Absolutely.
You're in agreement with who I'm becoming. And every step of the process, you know that I'm ultimately looking to get there and that I'm growing to get there. So now we don't have to feel like, I don't know who you are anymore. I don't wake up one day and be like, you're not the woman that I married. I'm not the man that you married. There's no confusion. I know that you're in this process. I'm in agreement with you being in this process. I've already gotten myself conditioned to be able to love the woman that you are right now and who you're ultimately going to become. And I love that I get to be a part of that because the fact that it's challenging is what allows us to grow closer together.
Yes.
And that's what you do for me. And that's what I do for you. But that's how we don't grow apart. It's because we're included in the process. So when you do get there, I get to say, I did that. I contributed to that. Like she did the work.
Right.
But I put in work for that. Like I helped her become that woman. She helped me become this man. She put in the work for that. She understands what I went through when nobody else was watching.
Right.
She knows all the sacrifices. She knows all of the mental crap that I had to overcome. She poured into me even when I couldn't do it myself. Like she knows that I'm there. I was there. She was there. And we're so invested in each other's process that when we get there, we're not only in love with who we become, but we're in love with the fact that we got to contribute that to each other. So we get to see the fruits of our investment.
Come on, boy. You better.
And that's how you avoid growing apart. Because I value your growth. You value my growth.
Absolutely.
If you let me, girl, I'll keep running off.
This is good. This is good.
That's what these C4s will do to you, man. Your mind start.
No, babe, your mind always on 1,000. Don't even give credit to the little drink. You always
you know,
out
like
there.
my mind, man, it get to running and whatnot. And next thing you know,
how long we been?
all of my thoughts get to pouring. But other than that, man, any closing thoughts, babe?
No, like you said it all beautifully.
I appreciate you, baby.
Yes.
I appreciate you. And I hope y'all genuinely got some value out of that. I didn't know I was going to ramble like that or go off on a rant like I did.
It was good.
But I hope y'all were really able to take something from that and be able to truly either see yourselves in it or see how you're able to make it useful for you in your own unique situation. But and until next time, my name is John Trone. This is my beautiful queen,
Adoria.
We are one dope couple family. And until next time, peace and love.